Hey there. Okay, I'm going to do a video making a summer hat with a big brim to shade your face. I'm going to use the 5/8 inch XLoom, and this is the larger one. It has 104 pegs, and it's 5/8 inch gauge. And I've got it set to start with 88 pegs. And we'll just look at one tip. This is too big to get my camera angle, so here we go. So here it is set here, and it's going to be 88 pegs to start, and I'm going to do one reduction and go down to 66. So I will be, after a few rows, be going down to 66, so my pegs will get moved down. And then I've already marked it for when I do the actual part that fits over your head. I'm going to go down to 44, and so I marked my pegs for the brim I'm going to do every second stitch, because it'll be easier to do it now than lift the yarn off to mark them. So I marked the ones that I knew. So if you want to do that and you have this loom, you can go ahead and mark it. It doesn't have to be done on this loom. You definitely can knit 2 stitches on a loom and that kind of technique to do one, or you can use another adjustable loom. CinDWood loom has other kinds of adjustable looms out there. KB has adjustable looms. There are other adjustable looms, so you can do it on other looms too. I worked out what I thought would be a nice brim by going up, and I like the numbers 88, 66, 44, but 44 will work for me for a loose summer hat because I've got a small head. You might want to go down to 48 for the final measurement, which is the big loom in the KB set, and it's the Purple Nifty Knitter, and it's the set that CinDWood also has. So that is a nice size everyone likes, or you can use any hat size you want, and in that case you might want to have these other 2 measurements a little bigger. But if you only go to 48, you can use the same thing and then just go down to 48 and it should work just fine. So we're going to be doing 2 new stitches I developed, stitch patterns. We're going to do the brim in my Cobblestone Stitch because it's a nice tight stitch and should be really good for a brim. And the body is just another pattern I developed. I'm not even going to name it because it's just 2 common stitches. So anyone can try it and see how it looks. But I tried it together and I thought this looks really nice for a summer hat, so that's what we're going to do for the body. There are no purls. I'm not using purls at all in this hat. So we're going to get started, and the first thing we're going to do is cast on. So the yarn that I'm using is a cotton yarn. It's kind of a ribbon. And if I can do a close-up, I don't know if you can see this. Let's try it on where there's a color. You can see that it is there. See if that will focus. Or you can see that it's made up of some kind of a tiny woven or knit ribbon. And so the ribbon has some stretch to it. Okay, and it's a bulky, and I have the label here. So it is a fashion summer print. It's 100% cotton. It's made by Rico Design. The color number of it was just a number, but here it is. It's the white one that had a little pink and blue in it. And it was just a number, and it looks like that fell off. Okay, and it's 50 grams and 65 meters. Okay, and if you're the kind of person that likes to look at other things on the label, I'll put this up closer so you can see some things. Okay, so this is the color that I decided I was going to use for this. So to start, we're going to do a my favorite cast on, chain cast on. It's a crochet cast on. And all we have to do is make a slip knot to start. So just like that. Put the yarn through and put it on number 1 peg. Okay, and then we take a yarn hook. I'm going to pick one here. How about green for today? Okay, now to get comfortable with this loom. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this hook, insert it in the top of the loop, and scoop some yarn through it and pull out that loop. There we go. Kind of nice. I like starting with the brim first and then reducing down, because you've done the longer knitting and then you're into the shorter knitting. Okay, so we just tighten this up a little bit. We want to keep it nice and tight so the edge of the brim looks good. Okay, and then we take it and put it behind the next peg. Take the working yarn, put it through, and just snug it up. And then we go and we put it behind the next peg and snug it up. And I have a lot of videos doing this stitch, so if you find it a little hard to see with this cast on, you can go to one of my other videos where I have a different color, but the white on the white loom, and I can't do anything different because this loom, I have it in white and it's expensive loom, so I think I'm get it in more than one color. Anyway, snug it up. And I'll get closer through, snug it up, round, put it through, snug it up, around, put it through, snug it up, snug it up. And we just do that all the way around the loom. Okay, here we go. We're into some color, so you'll be able to see a little bit better here. Okay, so we go behind the loom. This goes through, snug it up, and we're making a new loop. Behind the next peg, working yarn through, snug it up, and we're making a new loop. And time to move this around and keep it in the camera. Okay, next peg, snug it up, peg, snug it up. And this is what can happen when you're not paying attention. So if you find you make a mistake, you can just undo it like this until you get to the loop, because I'm supposed to go on this next. I'm just going along. Okay. Now, it could be a little awkward to do this stitch. Let's see how to do it. I can see why I didn't want to do this. It'd be just one stitch is going to be awkward for casting on. Okay, there we go. Got it. Got it, got it, got it. So then we go over to this next one. And I want to make sure that's nice and tight there. So I'm going to go back and make sure that that's tight. That seems pretty tight. Okay. And we just keep going all the way around. So I'm going to put you on pause, because I tell you it's going to get pretty darn boring if you're going to be watching me go around this huge loom. Okay, so we'll catch up when I get back close to the starting peg here, this little black peg. Oh, something's not right here. Okay, so I went all the way around, and with the final loop I had in my hand, I just popped it over the black peg and then knitted it over so it was secure. And then we're going to start doing the stitch for the brim. So the first thing I'm going to do is do 2 rows of owl eye. So for owl eye, we knit over the first peg and then wrap behind it and knit over the first peg and the second peg. I'm going to get as close as I can with this loom. It's very awkward. And just knit it over. I have a lot of owl eye videos, so you can watch the stitch video of owl eye, and that will show you how to do it if you haven't done it before. So go knit over the first and the second peg, and any peg we're left at, we're going to call that peg 1, and we knit over peg 1 and 2, and keep it loose. It'll be a lot easier for you to knit over. Okay. So we just keep going like that, and we're knitting over peg 1 and 2. And we're going to do 2 rows just to give it a little more of a foundation. Okay, so we're just going to go around twice doing the owl eye stitch. And I'll let you see me do just a couple more. I'll get as close as I can here. Working yarns at peg 1, go behind peg 1 and wrap peg 1 and 2 nice and loose, and then just knit them over. So every peg is getting 2 stitches. And that's important. Every peg should always get 2 stitches with owl eye. So if you're starting or ending with owl eye, give it 2 stitches, even if it's on 1 peg. Okay. Whoop. My yarn popped off. Yeah, this loom takes a little bit of getting used to, especially when you've used other looms and not used a loom like this. You need to move quite different. And we just keep doing owl eye even when we're going around like this. Okay, there we go with the purple. You can see me knitting it better. And there's an icon, a little gear at the bottom right hand. If you click on it, it will allow you to slow down the video. Okay, so we're at peg 1, we were at peg 1 and 2, and knit them over. Peg 1 and 2, knit them over. Okay, so I'm just going to put it on pause so we can do our 2 rows of owl eye, and I'll meet you back here. Okay, so I have done my 2 rows of owl eye, and so the first row is part of the cast on. The second row is our row 1. So the cobblestone stitch is 1 row of owl eye and then 1 row of a stitch called purl over. It's kind of like a knit that you don't knit over. You just flop it over the top, and I'll show you how to do that. And it makes a really nice, tight, and really cool pattern that's good for brims. So I'd like to thank Theresa Higby for giving me permission to do her stitch. I just think that the purl over is a great stitch. And then the other person I'd like to thank is Scarlett Royal for designing this loom. She designed this loom, and CinDWood Looms made it up for her, and it's just such a great innovative loom that makes it easy to decrease and increase. A great design from a really sweet person, Scarlett Royal. So I'm going to show you how to do this stitch. So we're going to go over as if to knit. I'm going to bring it nice and close because we're white on white. Okay, so we're just bringing it as if to knit. Then we're taking our loom hook and putting it under from the bottom when we're picking up this loop. So we're going under and picking up this loop on our loom hook. And then we're just going to scoop the top yarn under, and make a loop. Now this is, so far we're just doing what true knit is, but all we have to do is flop it over. We don't have to knit it over. So we just flop it over and tighten it. Now you're going to want to tighten it so that you can still knit it over. So not too tight. Make sure you can move it and knit it over. And you should see these 2 bars in front here. I'll get really close so you can see those 2 bars. See, there's 2 bars here and here, just sitting on the side. And here's how you can tell the difference between purl over stitch and owl eye, is when you see owl eye, it's flat here and all stitches are at the back, or that's really the front of the loom, but you know, they're to the back of this peg. And with the purl over, you have these 2 little things here. So if you put the loom down, you'll know where you are. Let's say you put the loom down, you go to do other things. Where am I? You're gonna look at it and you're gonna say, oh, here's the purl over because it looks like this. There's the owl eye, so I must be doing purl over. Okay. Now you can look at one of my other videos that I did the Cobblestone Stitch with, because I have another round one. I don't know, I haven't finished it yet, but it will be on too. And I have a flat purse I'm making in my Cobblestone Stitch. So you can look at those videos if it's easier to see how to do the purl over, or take a look at Theresa Higby's site to see how to do the purl over if you have trouble figuring out how to do it. Okay, so this loom hook comes in from the bottom, and then we scoop up that working yarn, which we've laid right over here. So we're just going to go in from the bottom. Ugh, such a bad angle for me, but I want it close. Okay, we're going to scoop it up, and we've got the loop. We put the loop over, and we just tighten it. If I can find that working yarn, there it is. Down there. There we go. And I'll do another one. Go from the bottom up and flip it over. Okay. The way I do it, and it's you'll get to doing it that way. You go, you scoop it up, and you just flip it over the peg with the loom hook. That one is at an odd angle, so I wasn't able to do it, of course. And it doesn't look right. So whenever that happens, I think my yarns got mixed up, you just take everything off, put the loop back on, come back, and under, scoop it up and put it on top and tighten it. And it should always look like this with these 2 little things there in front. And I'll do one more. Bottom, scoop it up and flip it over. Okay, so I'm going to go all the way around the loom back to this peg to start our next owl eye row. You can slow down. I'll do one more. You can slow this down if you need to, and like I said, I have other cobblestone stitches where you can look at this stitch or take a look at Theresa Higby's. Under, scoop it up, under, scoop it up. Hard for me to see this close. There. Okay, so I'm going to keep going around and I will meet you back up there. Okay, so I am back here now, and we started next row of owl eye, and I wanted to be with you at the start to show you what I mean by always making two stitches around here. So this one, I'm going to take a look to see what stitch I did, and this one was done in owl eye, so we need to do one more purl over on it. For some reason I started on that peg instead of that peg, but who knows why I do some of the things I do sometimes. As long as I'm consistent, doesn't matter what peg you start on. Okay, so there's the first peg with the purl over that we do the owl eye on. So we knit it over, and then we rewrap it because it has to have 2 stitches on it. And the same thing if when we end the owl eye row, make sure you put 2 stitches on it before you start a purl over row. And then your stitches will always look even and good. Okay, so we do 1 more row of owl eye and then we'll start decreasing. We have to decrease on an owl eye row. Purl over stitch is way too tight. You can't decrease on it. It would be a nightmare. But owl eye is nice, loose, stretchy, and it's really easy to increase and decrease on it. So do 1 row of owl eye and then we will start decreasing. So I will meet you back here for that. Okay, so here we are now, and we're ready to decrease. So every end here we're going to do a decrease, and each one decreases 2 pegs, so that's a total decrease of 8 pegs. And after we decrease, then you just do the purl over stitch over it. You do another owl eye wrap, and then you do another decrease, same thing. And you keep decreasing till you get down to about 66 pegs. Then at 66 pegs, what you're going to want to do is look at it and look at how long it is. And you're not going to be able to see very much because these just really pull up and it's hard to keep them pulled down. But here gives you an idea in the corners of how long your brim is going to be. So mine is looking quite long. So I'm just going to keep going and decreasing till I get down to my 44. And because I'm going down to 44, some of you are going to 48, I will get I will get more rows in too for the brim. So you're going to want to stop then and look at it and think to yourself, you know, how much longer do I want it? Do I want to? And if you figure you want it longer, you just do a few more rows before you decrease again. So it's totally in your control how long you're going to have that brim. So what we're going to do is I'm going to show you how to decrease, and then and we'll go from there. So here we are on the corner and we want to decrease. So you don't have to decrease it exactly the way I do, but this is the way I like to do it. So I take the peg that's here and I just pull it up and move it on to the next peg. Now that peg's empty. Then I loosen this and push it forward to the new position that it's going to be in, right there, and tighten it. And then I take this yarn and move it onto this yarn. Now when I come back, I come over, because the next row is going to be the purl over, these 2 pegs are as one. So let's just say you had a piece of yarn you were putting over here. Let's say this is the working yarn. You would just go under, scoop up the 2, and pull down the yarn and put it over just like that. Okay, so you just treat them as if they're one strand, and you've reduced 2 pegs and moved this. Go to the next one, same thing, the yarn, and you see if you've been using owl eye is really easy to move over. It's one thing I really like about it. Nice and loose and really easy for increasing and decreasing. Way easier than trying to move a Ewrap or an Ewrap, I find. Anyway, move that over. And there we are. See? Decreased again, another 2. So you just do that on all of them. And then here you are, you finished your Ewrap row. You just start doing your purl over. Oop, I was going to do a purl. No, we do it like a knit. Purl over, and away you go. And then a row of Ewrap, and then decrease again. Okay, so we will catch up when you have decreased all the way down to where you want to be. For the size of your head, I'm doing 44 pegs. You may want to do 48 or even more. 50, 52, you'll have to do it in groups of 2, but you can have any width that you normally have in 5/8. If you're doing this on one of the other XLooms, you should know your hat size on them, so you'll be able to figure this out, do the same thing with a smaller gauge. Okay, so we'll catch up to you then when we have decreased all the way down to what we want for the body of the hat, and I will meet you up then. Okay, so now I have finished, and I think all the points for the brim, and I think it's going to be long enough. It's really hard to tell on here exactly how long it is, but it's at least this long plus all the way up here to the peg. So that is long enough for me. And it's going to be really hard to tell and measure how long it is for your head. But as it gets longer, it is starting to come through here. So it is going to come through. So I need a way for the head. So when you wear a brim of a hat, you got the brim, then you got how high the head is, right? But on this, it's going to come out, and so you're going to want your head size, your beanie for a tight beanie, you know, not a slouchy beanie, a tight beanie for the top. So I know for me, I have a very small head. I'm just going to go about 7 inches, maybe even 6.5, and most of you are going to do 8 inches, or maybe longer if you have a big head. So we need a way to measure that. So what I did is I put a stitch marker in the first peg. When I knit it over, I'll be able to measure from the stitch marker. And that's where the brim starts, stitch marker up to get the measurement, to get the right size of hat. So that's how I'm doing it. You can't really see the stitch very good in here because it's all kind of tight in here, so we don't know how exactly it's going to look. We get a bit of an idea. It's going to be a nice brim, but yeah, it's hard to see. So when it gets longer, we can look at it, but we're ready to do the stitch for the body. So I had marked mine ahead of time, so when I came down, I knew exactly where I was to have my 44 pegs, which is small, so most of you are going to go bigger than that. And I've got this as if it's a marked peg, and then no marking, marked, no marking, marked, no marking, marked, no marking, marked. So it's like that every second peg all the way down. And so I put my marking on odd pegs, peg 1, 3, 5, you know, on like that. You don't have to mark if you can remember, and that's fine. Now, this is my first peg I'm going to start at. Every unwrapped peg is going to be an owl eye stitch on one peg, and every marked peg will be an Ewrap stitch. And I have named this stitch, so I'll be able to talk about it. So the stitch is going to be called the Ewrap Owl Stitch because it's exactly what the stitches are, Ewrap and owl eye. So that's an easy name, and there we go. So first we're going to do the owl eye stitch. So we just come over the peg. Oh, I'm going to get this really close. Okay, bear with me, it's a bit awkward, so I'm going to be slow and awkward probably doing it, but it's a big thing to actually get the right camera angle and be comfortable knitting at the same time. Okay, so I'm just going to knit over in the owl eye, and the stitch marker will go over with it. You can even tie a piece of yarn on there, you don't have to use a stitch marker. And then I do my second owl eye, and then I come over and I E-wrap this peg. Okay, and keeping it loose will be a nice looser stitch for a summer hat. And then I come over it to do the owl eye on the next peg, and it has 2 loops on it because that's where I decreased. And bring them over. It's always a little tighter where those 2 loops are, but that's fine. And I do the owl eye again and come over to this peg and E-wrap it, and I'm going to do it all as one motion because it's just going to be easier. So there's the rest, the second owl eye, and coming over into the E-wrap. There we go. And then coming over. I don't know what I'm doing there. This wasn't supposed to be an E-wrap. I missed one. So let's put this back on here. too close to me. I can't focus real close with my eyes. I kind of focus better way down there, but okay. Now, this was the E-wraps. I did the owl eye here. I'm just doing the E-wrap here. Glad I caught myself. And this one isn't marked. This is an owl eye. Okay. 1, 2. And then over here, we're going to E-wrap. Okay, and we got 2 pegs to bring over. So just slowly bring them over. Okay. So now I'm going to show you how I do it so it goes faster. So for the owl eye, you're going over and wrapping over, and you're coming back over to wrap peg 1, and then we just knit it over to finish an owl eye on 1 peg, but we might as well come over and go right into the E-wrap. So I come over the owl eye, go into the E-wrap, and knit it off. It's actually a figure 8, but that's what it really is. All these different names for the way you wrap stitches. Okay, so then we come over and do the owl eye here. Get close again. Come over and do the owl eye stitch. Come over and E-wrap it. And it's just that easy. And you come from behind. This is caught on something here. It's caught on that metal peg. Okay. Come back here, and you always come from behind the peg to do the stitch. So there's the owl eye. And then we're always behind the peg to do the E-wrap too. So you're always coming behind. That should make it easy to remember. And then owl eye stitch. And there's a little gear to slow down so you can see. On the lower right hand there's a gear. Click on it and it will give you the options to adjust your speeds. Okay, so there's the E-wrap. Come behind, do the owl eye, another owl eye, E-wrap over it, the next peg, and got 2 loops to go over again. Or come over and do owl eye on this peg here, and then I come over to do the second wrap on the owl eye and come over to this one and E-wrap it. Goes a lot faster now that we've reduced the pegs. Just whipping around. And owl eye and owl eye and E-wrap. Okay, and then go over to owl eye. So basically, I think you have it. You just go around and around. And then if I'm going to decrease, I'm going to degrease it at the end so that the brim is a lot more rounded. So instead, let's say you're going to do 8 inches. That's how long your body is going to be. Let's stop at around 7 inches and we'll do the last inch decreasing to get a tighter brim. If you want, you can even start your decreasing earlier than that to have an even flatter brim, but I'll show you how to decrease when you're getting close to the end of your hat. For me, I'm going to stop just a little over 6 inches because, as I said, I only want a hat that's no longer than 7 inches to fit me properly. And not to mention, and this is also stretchy material, so it's going to stretch on my head and be bigger than its actual measurement. So we'll just keep going, and then when you're within an inch or so of where you're going to end it, we'll come back and I'll show you how to start decreasing for the brim. But basically it's going to be the same thing. It's just going to be decreasing the same way we did for the other part of it, and we can keep decreasing and do a few rows, and but we'll decrease more than 2 at a time. Okay, so I'll catch up to you, or yeah, you'll catch up to me I'll catch up to you, but we'll come back when we're close to being ready to do decreasing for the top of the hat. Okay, hello. So yes, I've worked ahead. Now I am at the length that I want this hat to be. I measured from that stitch marker, and to do the reducing we're going to do and bind off takes about an inch, so I'm almost at 6, and I certainly don't want to go over 7 for my little head, and plus it's a stretchy fabric. So we can take a little look at it here. Here's our brim here. There's the stitch, cobblestone stitch there, and then here's our other stitch, the Ewrap Owl Stitches right up here, so giving a lot more air for hot summer days, and then a nice tight brim like this to shade. Okay, so now to do the bind off, or to do the reducing, so that we can get to the bind off, what we're going to need to do is do the same kind of reducing we did when we were reducing the brim. So you know how to do that. That's just on both sides at each of these. So that's 8 every time. And we're going to have to switch to straight E-wrap. So we're just going to E-wrap around, do a row of E-wrap, then do our reducing, a row of E-wrap, do our reducing. And you'll be able to reduce down to right here. Here, if you did, it's going to be too loose for this peg. It won't go any further, and it'll make the spaces too wide, but to here is all the same, so you'll be able to reduce down to there. Now in my case, I have a longer one here for my 44. It's quite a bit longer than the others to go with the pattern, so I will be doing as many decreases as it shows here, which is got to come right down to there, so that's 4 decreases. So I'll be going around decreasing all of them, and every on one of the 2 of the rounds I'll just be decreasing on the one side until I get them all down to there, and then just do a drawstring bind off. So we just switch to E-wrap and we reduce it, and you just E-wrap the whole loom. And I've got it up on this tray now because I found this is much easier for me to work on this, and it's not near as awkward anymore. So it's quite easy, and then it just slides around. So it's my actual computer tray, my new one. Okay, so I'm just going to knit this one off here, just so it will hold all this, and remind you of how to do the reducing here. So I'm just going to knit these ones off too. There we go. And so I might as well just knit all of these off right to the beginning. Okay, so to reduce, we just take the loops and move them onto the pegs. Make this come up one. Tighten it, come around, and move the other one up. And that's it. So you just do your row of E-wrap and then reduce on all 4 sides, another row of E-wrap, reduce, and then I'll catch up to you when we're ready to do the bind off. Okay, so I've reduced down as far as I can go now, and I'm just going to bind off. So I wrap my yarn around what's left twice and put it in a needle. And so then all you have to do is go in and scoop up all the yarns. So you just go in from the bottom and go under the loop and scoop up the yarn. That's it. And of course these ones are always the going to be the awkward ones to scoop up, but that's okay. Well, that's not going to work. I went right under the loom. So, well, there we go. So if something like that happens, you just put your yarn back through the needle. And I'm going to try something. I'm going to go down instead of up like that, and going to just pop it up with the loom hook. And then, there we go. It's going to be easy to go through. So, there is a way. Okay. And we just keep scooping them up. And once you've scooped them up, you can actually take them off. I wouldn't take off the first one, but you can pop off the rest of them. Behind you. Okay. And then I will just make it a little less tight. I'll pop that one off. That just makes everything a little bit looser. And I'll see if I can get this one now that it's looser. Looks like it. Okay, and I'm just going to pop a couple more off that we've caught, because it makes it a lot easier to get the rest off. Okay. I guess I'll just put this down, get it out of my way. There. Well, good to be almost done. And I'm going to scoop this one off with a loom hook too. Hold it in my fingers and just stick the needle through. And I'm going to pop that one off with the loom hook and needle through. And there's just 2 more to pick up. And then the last one right here. And then we can pop them all off. Okay, it's going to be easier to come with the loom this way. Let's put the loom here. And what we have to do now is pull it closed. There we go. I'm going to go to the inside and put the needle through. And finish pulling it closed all the way. And there we go. And then looks like my needle fell off. Huh. I'm going to cut this shorter now so it'll be easier to work with. And then I had to add yarn, so that's what those are, and I just have to trim those off. Yeah, it was so close to the end and I ran out of that. I ran out of yarn and had to add in more. Okay, I'm just going to check to make sure this side looks nice, and we pulled it in right. Yep, that looks really good there. And yep, so we just sew it up now. And just sew around it a bit. Oh, I can't sew around too many. This yarn is really funny to, because it's wide on one side and thin on the other, so I can't go through too many at a time. Okay. Nice and tight, and I'm just going to tie a knot. Slipped off again. Had a nice orange needle. I don't know where it went. It would be nice when you're working with white thread here. And I'm just going to tie another knot. I want to make sure that it's secured well. Okay, and then you can weave it in. I'm just going to leave mine loose on the inside because what's the point? And there you go. Here's the hat, and stretch out the stitches a bit and stretch it this way. There we go. And we can take a look at it now. Finally see the hat. There's our pattern, and here's our nice brim. And when we have it on, we're going to have a nice sun hat here to wear. So there we go, and we can look at the top because we reduced it. We got a really nice, fairly flat top. There we go, nice and flat. And there we go. There's our sun hat, and I can tell by looking at it, it's a perfect size for me. Really excited. I'll be wearing it like this in the front, and there we go. Okay, so I hope you enjoyed the video, and until we see you next time, bye.